War of the Oceans, the Deepening Rift. The war did not begin with the flash of a bomb or the roar of a cannon. It began with the quiet death of the coral reefs and the frantic retreat of the surface dwellers. It was a war born of necessity, the desperation of two civilizations driven to extinction by a changing world. The year was 2147. Above the waves, the surviving nations of humanity, the Aryans, clung to vast, floating city-states known as arcs, built atop the ruins of the melted ice caps. Below, deep in the newly warmed abyss, a vast ancient society known as the Abyssals had risen. They were the descendants of those who chose to genetically adapt to the deep waters decades ago, their bodies now sleek, bioluminescent, and utterly alien to their surface kin. Admiral Theron Vance, a man whose face was etched with the grim lines of constant triage, stood on the observation deck of the Ark Triton, one of the last major human settlements. He was the supreme commander of the Aryan Defense Fleet, a fleet composed mostly of retrofitted oil tankers and rickety submersibles. His gaze was fixed on the shimmering turquoise horizon, but his mind was in the dark trenches far below. "The sonar report, General," his aide, Lieutenant Cale, reported, his voice tense. "Another 3 supply barges lost off the New Zealand shelf. No distress calls. No debris. Just gone." Theron closed his eyes, the familiar wave of cold fury and fear washing over him. The Abyssals don't need torpedoes. They have the silence of the deep. They just need to wait. The Abyssals weren't interested in conquest. They were interested in survival. The warming waters had destroyed their deep-sea geothermal vents and their food sources. They were now migrating upward, reclaiming the continental shelves, pushing the Aryans out of the richest fishing grounds, the very grounds humanity needed to feed its millions. "Have we established communication?" Theron asked, turning to face the command console, his posture that of a man holding back a collapsing wall. "Negative, sir. Their language is a series of complex sonic pulses, and every diplomatic submersible we send is met with a high-frequency disruption wave. They cripple our electronics. They don't engage us directly." "They don't need to," Theron sighed, running a hand over his tired face. "They know we can't fight them in their element. We can only scratch the surface, while they own the crushing depth." Meanwhile, miles below the Ark Triton, in the crushing pressure of a newly established abyssal colony built from bioluminescent silicate, stood Rhina. Rhina was not a soldier, but a deep weaver, a scientist and linguist responsible for maintaining the delicate ecological balance of her colony and interpreting the surface world's frantic broadcasts. Her skin glowed with soft, sapphire patterns, an internal light that pulsed with her emotions. Right now, it pulsed with a desperate, cold anger. She watched a monitor displaying a faint, jerky image of the Ark Triton far above, a huge, clumsy island of rusted metal and anxious lights. "They are too numerous, Chief Weaver," stated Kel, the colony's military leader, his voice an efficient click of sonic waves. "They must be driven back. The geothermal fields at the ridge are cooling rapidly. We need the thermal currents of the shelf to propagate the nurseries." Rhina turned, her bioluminescence flaring with frustration. "We kill their transports, Kel, and they panic. Panic means they drop more disruptors, more sonic mines. We need to communicate to them that their survival is tied to ours. If the oceans die, the surface dies faster. Communication is for equals, Rhina. They sent a boat full of guns, not food. They see us as monsters of the deep, not partners. Kel pointed a delicate webbed hand at the surface image. Their arc blocks the sun and casts a massive shadow over our primary nursery zone. That is an act of war, whether they know it or not. Rhina moved to a console, her long, elegant fingers gliding over the bioluminescent keys. She had spent the last 3 cycles translating the raw human data, their history, their culture, their desperate science. She knew Theron Vance was the key. He was the one who signed the orders to retrofit the barges into supply ships. He is trying to feed his people, just as we are trying to feed ours, she thought. The war is not between us. The war is against the rising tide. But the Abyssal's patience was gone. Kel's forces were already mobilizing a retaliatory strike, not against the fishing barges, but against the foundation anchors of the Ark Triton itself. A few well-placed sonic implosions, and the Ark would capsize, sending millions of Aryans into the water. Rhina knew she had only a matter of hours to find a language both species could understand before the Deep Weaver and the Supreme Commander triggered an irreversible global cataclysm. She had to try to break the silence.